Now that I've talked about the 6 out of the 12 classes that made up my educational journey in pursuit of my master's degree in Education, Media, Design, and Technology at the Full Sail University, it's time for me to talk about my thesis. Next, let's talk about the need or the problem that I defined in my thesis. My thesis was the integration of the Apple iPhone and QR codes for interactive learning. The reason I came up with this idea was that kids, when they're at home, have access to all this really great technology. They have Xboxes, they have Wiis, they have PlayStations, they have DVD players, they have Blu-ray players, and the technology just goes on and on and on. The problem is when they get to school, they don't get to use any of this technology that they're used to at home. Most classes are still based around the paradigm of the teacher standing up in front of the class and lecturing to and with a blackboard or chalkboard. Some places are now using smart boards, but the problem is that the teachers are still talking, up in front of the class. So my thought was, if we can get the students up out of their chair for at least one class a day, then they're going to have their brains working. Once we get the kids up and out of their chairs, this begs the question of what does the Apple iPhone do and what's the QR code do in relationship to getting these kids learning. The QR code, if you're not familiar with it, is a funny looking square barcode. This barcode was originally designed by a company called DensoWave out of Japan, and it was originally engineered for reading high-speed car parts coming across the auto assembly line. So the QR code has the ability to store all different types of data, very dense information in a very small area. The QR code is usually about the size of a U.S. postage stamp. Now, how does that interact with the Apple iPhone? Well, the Apple iPhone has built into it a 3-megapixel camera. And once the camera in the iPhone passes over or sees or reads the information on the QR code, it opens up a website. If a QR code can have encoded in it a website, which is read by the camera on the Apple iPhone, where does the website come from that's encoded in the QR code? The students in the class would use a free product like Google Sites to build a web page. That web page is then taken into a program called Be Curious, and that generates the QR code, which is then used in the class. Now that the components of the Apple iPhone and QR code interactive learning technology have been reviewed, let's discuss how this would actually work in class. Let's look at the voyage of Christopher Columbus across the ocean to discover the New World. The teacher would pick a topic like Christopher Columbus's journey. She would break up the class into different learning teams. The learning teams would research parts of Columbus's journey, like the different ships, the Queen, the ocean, the indigenous people he discovered in his journey. Those teams would then use the Google technology to build the websites. Once the websites are built, they're encoded into QR codes, and those QR codes are printed out onto a variety of things. They could be table tents, they could be posters with graphics. There's different ways that we could use the prints. Then the teacher turns each team loose and they walk up to each table tent. Using the camera on the iPhone, they scan the QR code, and the QR code launches a web page that, remember, The web page was built by the students, and they learned about the different parts of Columbus's journey. Then at the end of each website it says, go and learn about the next component of Columbus's journey. The question put forth in this section of how does my media project relate to other comparable projects? When I was researching my thesis, I discovered that I was actually trying to connect non-connected technologies. The QR code is a brand new technology, as well as the Apple iPhone is a brand new technology. Very few people, from what I've found, have been able to bridge the gap or connect these two non-connected technologies. The question put forth in this section of how does my media project relate to other comparable projects? When I was researching my thesis, I discovered that I was actually trying to connect non-connected technologies. The QR code is a brand new technology, as well as the Apple iPhone is a brand new technology. Very few people, from what I've found, have been able to bridge the gap or connect these two non-connected technologies. In my research phase, I was able to find 3 significant contributors. The first one was Bray. He wrote an article called iPhone in Education, using QR code in the classroom. The next person I found was Chen. He wrote an article titled How the iPhone Could Reboot Education. And the third person I found in my research phase was named Robinson. He wrote an article entitled Learning the Human Skeleton with QR Codes.